Now to our next session with TiE Silicon Valley on building entrepreneurial mindsets. TiE Silicon Valley is the largest and founding chapter of the global TiE brand, which is a nonprofit dedicated to fostering entrepreneurship. After this session, we'll have a quick coffee break. And remember, at the very end of our day today, stay tuned for our Southwest Sweepstakes winners. 2 lucky attendees will receive round-trip e-passes from Southwest. And moderating now for the next hour is Andy Tsao. He's Managing Director at Silicon Valley Bank, and he's also on both boards of Asia Society and TiE. Andy, thank you for being with us. It's all yours.
Hey, thank you, Margaret. Good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is Andy Tsao, and I'm Managing Director at Silicon Valley Bank. For those who are not familiar with us, just think of us as the bank for the entrepreneurial economy here in the U.S. and increasingly around the world. And I'm delighted to be here with you to moderate this panel on building the entrepreneurial mindset over the course of the next hour. First, I'd like to congratulate the Asia Society of Northern California, Margaret and team for their second virtual education summit. Seems like a great 2 days, and again, delighted to be here. And of course, thanks to Asia Society for having us here to talk about the entrepreneurial mindset from the perspective of TiE Silicon Valley. And I'm particularly excited because, as Margaret noted, I'm on the advisory board here at the Asia Society NorCal, but I also sit on the board of TiE Silicon Valley, 2 organizations that have had an amazing impact on the greater Asian community and well beyond it. So let's dive into our panel, and we're going to program-wise speak for about the next 45 minutes in the panel, and then will leave us plenty of time for Q&A, which you can submit through the Q&A panel. So let's start with some introductions, and we'll go around the Zoom here with Reena, AGK, and Naeem. So let's start with you, Reena.
Thank you, Andy, and very happy to be here. Thank you, Asia Society, for having us. And so showing what it means to have an entrepreneurial mindset to young kids is a very exciting topic for us. I have been an entrepreneur myself for over 2 decades, specifically in technology industry. I have ran my companies in talent management, as well as I call it the workforce industry. So for me, being in the area where I can nurture young minds early on is a very exciting opportunity. And I have been working with TiE as a youth co-chair. Outside of TiE, I run another program called Mom Relaunch, where I'm nurturing women who are on a career break. Believe it or not, it's very similar to the work that I'm doing here as well, because we are bringing women back into the workforce. It feels like I'm nurturing them all over again. Apart from these 2 initiatives, I am part of the local community, very well connected with the Economic Vitality Council, and my job is to figure out how to bring in more economic prosperity, both locally as well as to the community in general. So just a few things here that I would like to share.
Thanks, Reena. AGK, why don't you go ahead?
Hi, thank you again, Andy, and the Asia Society for the opportunity for TiE and the group from TiE to talk about entrepreneurship mindset. Personally, myself, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I'm currently the president of TiE Silicon Valley. I've been associated with TiE since 1995, and we'll talk more about TiE as we go through the presentation. But personally myself, I'm a serial entrepreneur. As I said, I run a company called Multi-Coreware, and then I serve on a couple of boards, nonprofit boards. I'm also part of, I make a lot of angel investment, but I'm also part of this partnership that's called India Impact Investment Partnership, where we make impact investments in India. So that's sort of what I do. I call it a third and a third and a third. And it's been great working with the entire TiE team. And, it's been a fulfilling journey for me, and we'll talk more about entrepreneurship mindset. Yeah.
Thank you, AGK. And last but not least, Naeem.
Yeah, my name is Naeem Zafar. Actually was born in Pakistan and came to study electrical engineering to US. So got my undergraduate at Brown and graduate degree from Minnesota. I've been starting companies since I was 26. I'm running my 7th company right now called TeleSense in agriculture space. But I'm also been a educator. So I've been teaching at UC Berkeley for the last 16 years and also teach at Brown University and Northeastern University. I've been a charter member at TiE for 20 years, and I lead their academic program, TiE Institute, entrepreneurship education, youth programs. So several activity dealing with teaching entrepreneurship to young people in middle school, high school, and college.
Looking forward to your perspective, Naeem. And I have to say, I give a plug to Northeastern University as my daughter just graduated from Northeastern, and I've had the pleasure of being a guest lecturer in Naeem's Northeastern class. So over to back to you, AGK, and I think, gosh, there's such a long storied history with TiE, and would love for you, particularly as the president of TiE, to give sort of the TiE story and how TiE supports entrepreneurs in their journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Andy. So back in 1992, a bunch of people of South Asian origin, they all got together and they said that, hey, we all have to form a helping hand among ourselves to not only help themselves, but also support new generation of entrepreneurs. That's how TiE got started. And from then on, TiE is focused on 5 core areas, I would say. One is providing the education to the entrepreneur and everything about entrepreneurship, right? So that's the first one. And it wanted to provide a mechanism to network, because TiE is a network, and you can only take advantage of the network by networking, right? So we facilitate that, and then we help entrepreneurs with mentoring, because there are successful entrepreneurs in the TiE ecosystem. They give back, mostly charter members and other successful executives. They just mentor young startups. And then, of course, we have this investment program called TiE Angels. And then we also have very good connections with our sponsors who are investors. Through them, we facilitate investments into these companies. And last but not the least, we also help them find customers. So essentially, we want to capture the journey of the entrepreneur, right from the contemplating, if I should start a company, to all the way to exit. So I just want to draw a parallel, to myself, right? So I first attended my TiECon, I think in 1995. Certainly, a lot of my entrepreneurial juices started flowing when I got all these marquee people who have been successful telling their stories, do's and don'ts. So, learned from that. Then I became an entrepreneur in 96. And I became a charter member, I think 2001, I think. And I remember, certainly through that TiE relationship, I ended up doing banking with Silicon Valley Bank. I was a bootstrap company CEO. I didn't raise any money, but we ended up doing business with Silicon Valley Bank, and they stayed with us until such time we sold our business. And I continue to bank even with them for my next startup, right? So that's been a great, I'm just saying how TiE connected, right? I've got lots of customers. My M&A got triggered through TiE. So personally, myself, I have benefited a lot. So once I became a charter member, I started giving back to TiE. So I've been a convener of the conference. I've co-chaired several events like CEO Forum and all that, and then served on the board and now the president. So there's a lot of opportunity for people, like me, who not only got the benefit, but also are giving back. So I think TiE is doing a phenomenal job, and started out in Silicon Valley, but today it has grown to 61 chapters around the world. And it's great. I mean, you can leverage these connections in every part of the world, right? You can starting from Japan, Singapore, Malaysia, in the Asia, there's a lot of such connection, lots of chapters in India, then Europe, of course, many, many chapters in the USA. So it's great. And we'll talk more about it, Andy. I hope that gave a perspective about TiE. Yeah.
Thanks, AGK. And I could say personally, I've spent time in TiE Boston, TiE London, TiE Nordics, and of course here in the Silicon Valley. And it's an incredible organization in terms of how they support entrepreneurs, and that's one of the reasons why Silicon Valley Bank has been a partner to TiE for 28 years, which is quite a long-standing relationship, I should say. Because we didn't really get into it, AGK did mention our TiECon, which, just for folks on the line, that is our annual flagship conference. We just did that in May virtually for the second time, and we had over 30,000 participants registered from all around the world. So for folks interested in attending TiECon next year, and we have programming across the year, please check out TiESV.org. Okay, let's go over to Reena. And Reena, would love to get your perspective because one of the areas that you focus on at TiE is the TiE Youth Program. And the audience today, obviously we have a lot of K through 12 educators here. And how do we get involved with young entrepreneurs and instill that entrepreneurial mindset at an earlier stage for students?
Sure. So with TiE Youth Program, we have multiple initiatives. More and more people are bringing more creative ideas here. So one of our flagship program at TiE Young Entrepreneurs Program is called TiE Academy, which is a 10-week boot camp kind of model where we bring in students who may not even know what a business idea is or what it takes to turn into a business. So we work with the students, we bring in instructors from universities and also real life entrepreneurs. We bring in advisors and take them through a process of how can they identify a problem area that they are very passionate to fix, and how can they change their mindset of not looking at a problem and say, yeah, it's a problem, or what can we do about it, but actually roll up their sleeves and fix the problem. And that's the change in the mindset that we bring into the students. And that change in mindset can be brought in early on. That is a skill, that is a quality that can help them, whether they want to run their business or they doing a job somewhere, or they can become an intrapreneur. However, they used to choose that mindset and the skill that we are inculcating in their way to think about a problem and not just talk about it or not just complain about it, but come up with a solution. And being an entrepreneur, have a solution that can also generate revenue. That is the key. So that's what we want to bring into the young entrepreneurs. And in our program, they come up with an idea, they do brainstorming, they go through design thinking, they generate revenue model, business models, and they also practice creating a business pitch, which helps them improve their communication, improve the way to convince others that their business is worth pursuing. And that is the process that we bring in through this program. There are other initiatives. Now we are looking into how they can take this experience and put that in their college application, how they can actually go and create businesses, even if it is bootstrapped or get some funding or however we want to do it. Another initiative that we are doing is how we can create internships. Internships is a big part of our initiative this year, where we are going to be bringing companies to work with these students and take their business idea and give them the hands-on experience. On top of that, we do also have, we call it as the mini conferences or mini TiECons. We had it like twice this year or once this year, and we are planning to do a few more. And it's all student run. So students are coming in, they decide what's important for them to learn, what topic, who they want to talk to, and they run the whole show. So it's a very interesting program how we have created, and gives them the independent thinking, gives them the solution, gives them the skill to be successful.
So a lot of exposure in actually hands-on work as young entrepreneurs. And as you said, Reena, at TiECon, our big conference, we usually have a track that where the youth is included in that as well, so they get a lot of exposure in general. As I'd invite AGK or Naeem to talk about TiE Youth as well, but also, I think all three of you are involved with the TiE University program. So maybe you can, which is relatively new, if you can tell us about that and how TiE University works, that would be great.
AGK, you want to take this, or do you want?
Yeah, I mean, of course, right. So if you take a look at, I've seen this number, and Naeem can correct me if I'm wrong. Apparently, 2 to 4% of any graduating class apparently will become an entrepreneur, right? I mean, that's historical data. But if you inculcate the entrepreneurial mindset very early on in a student's mind, I mean, and I think classic examples, selling Girl Scout cookies or, doing a lemonade stand, all of that is entrepreneurship on one hand. But if you give a structured education, through this weekend classes. So what we decided at TiE is that, developing the youth is very important for the organization like TiE to succeed or be there, 50, 100 years, right? Then you need to make sure that you need to get generation of entrepreneurs engaged with TiE. So that's very, very important. So in that sense, we already talked about, the middle school program, the high school program that we have, but we also have this university program, because what we noticed is that there are, right in the valley, we've got, very high-end universities like Stanford and Berkeley, and then the Santa Clara University. There is different type of San Jose State and other, CSU, basically California State universities, right? So our idea is to provide, using TiE as a platform, we wanted to educate these university students to form, either think about a business idea and get mentored by the TiE community, and then compete at a global level. So what TiE, because we have got 61 chapters around the world, we want to nurture this relationship with every other university clusters where the TiE is physically located. And then what we do is we try to create a global competition where each chapter may send a team or two or whatever after they do this local selection process. So we had a bunch of local universities participated, and then very recently, I think a team went to the global competition. So TiE does this in a very, very big way. Again, the idea is that in this particular case, in the university students' case, they even get funding at the end of it, right? And so it's not only quote unquote educational, right, or experiential, but it's also resulting in funding so that you can go make that, realize that idea, right? So that's how the TiE University is done. And I think Naeem has done a great job of coming up with this TiE Institute curriculum that services all these things, right? We have a mini MBA program that he led. So it's a bunch of, like I said, it's a combination of educational content, mentoring, and helping with investments and perhaps finding customers also. Naeem?
Yeah, Andy, and to add one more thought on it, like it's a next step from the youth program. So they come to middle school, they go to high school, and university is the next level up. And then obviously we expect them to come back to our program as a successful entrepreneur, as a TiE member. So it's just a stepping stone at one for each program.
I think one other thing which is, I'm trying to see also how is that relevant to our audience today? What do they care about? I mean, they don't care about TiE yet. We gotta make it relevant to you. The point I'm making is that your parents' generation, people had 3 jobs in their career. The generation which is now graduating, they're expected to have between 17 and 21 jobs. That's pretty dramatic. What does that mean? Everybody will have to be an entrepreneur. The way the labor force is changing, you have to be a specialist. Ask yourself, in Hollywood, how many people have a W-2 jobs? Hardly anybody. But in 1940s, almost everybody did. Directors, actors had a W-2 job. They worked for a studio. Now almost nobody does. Extremely few people do. What about surgeons? Well, unless you work for Kaiser, do you work for a company? No, you're a specialist. You're an entrepreneur. You're a solo specialist, which is hired by different hospitals to do procedures. This is going to happen to all of you. It's not, if not all of you, your kids, all of your kids you're teaching and your own kid, this is going to happen. How do you prepare them for that world when you have to fend for yourself? And that's what TiE is trying to do. And what Reena said and AGK said, that's the connection you should be making in your mind. TiE is the platform which provides the tools. So any one of you, you're all educators, you want to teach in your classroom entrepreneurship. How do you do that? What's the curriculum? What's the example? What's engaging? And that's what we have created as part of TiE University, TiE Youth Program. And check this out. All of us pay TiE $1,700 a year to have the privilege to give our time for free. Check that out. So if you can create that organization, when you be paying them, so could we please volunteer our time? And Andy has been doing it. So Andy, does it pay off or not? And my point is that when people, sometimes this opposite, the reverse thing works. It's been working. So there's some
100%.
lesson here from all the people in the audience, how they rethink how you should be teaching, what tools are available to you, what partnerships are valuable to you. That's what this panel is about.
So that's a great segue, Naeem, in terms of just drawing upon your background as an entrepreneur and as an educator at so many prestigious universities like Berkeley and Brown and Northeastern. You know, whether it's in a TiE context or beyond, what advice do you have in terms of what you've seen works, and you as an educator to educator, how would you advise some of the teachers on the Zoom today in terms of how do you get these kids more exposed to entrepreneurship and getting to that entrepreneurial mindset?
So let me ask you a question. Can you teach swimming through PowerPoint? I mean, you can show me all kinds of PowerPoints and I'm swimming, the different techniques, how to do this, how to. It doesn't
Not if your life
matter
depended on it, Naeem.
Sorry?
Not if your life depended on it, right?
Not till you get in the water, you have no idea.
Exactly.
So this is what entrepreneurship is about. It's about experiential learning. So the way many people try to teach it, first of all, if you never got in the water, you're not going to be able to teach swimming. So you have to have experiences. And this is one of the fundamental problem that people who are even trying to teach entrepreneurship at college level have no clue. So this is where you need to connect the dots. And I think some examples given, you know, the entrepreneurs are all around us. We need to bring them into the classroom. We need to tell the stories. See, the thing is, why do kids want to grow up and become sportsmen or sports person? Because those are the role models which they have admired. We never taken an entrepreneur and put them in a role model. How many books when the prince comes and rescues the princess? What about books when entrepreneur comes and rescues the whole town by creating a business? Who's going to write those books? Who's going to teach those books? So you have to start at the very early days when you start telling different stories. So you create different role models, because this is how the transformation will happen. It's not easy. And in Silicon Valley, we still have role models which are entrepreneurs. We admire them. But you go to Alabama, go to Mississippi, it may not be the same story.
Well, maybe with Jeff Bezos and Richard Branson getting into space recently, that'll begin to change
hopefully
the exposure of entrepreneurs around the U.S. But great. So let me ask a question to all of you in terms of you know, obviously we've been in a really uncertain and challenging time with the pandemic, and it's really forced the entire world to, you know, move to digital, move to virtual engagement. How has that, from your view, changed how we whether it's again through TiE, how do we engage with aspiring entrepreneurs online, and what changes, both positive and negative, has this pandemic forced onto the ecosystem?
I mean, the best thing that I could think of, Andy, is the access, right? So we're fortunate. I mean, I think we all work together at the TiECon, but if you really take a look at it, this time we had, 200 plus speakers, and, we could get some real marquee ones because they didn't have to travel. We could facilitate an interaction, sitting right in their office or home. So that is one biggest benefit, right? And then the other biggest benefit is that, when you try to have everything, in a confined space, in person, you are limited by the space, right? I mean, you cannot have, 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 people showing in, then you need to hire a big Levi Stadium or something like that, right? So, but on the other hand, we conducted with 31,000 registered attendees, dialing in from all parts of the world to come in and learn. So to me, the space and access, I think, or the significant benefits of the pandemic, and of course there are technology tools that enabled it. That's all. We're all in the Silicon Valley. I'm pretty sure when life gives a lemon, they'll make a lemonade out of it anyway, right? So that's fine. But the challenge, though, of course, is that you lose that human touch interaction, and that, in my opinion, can never be replaced. But by doing this, so many Zoom events and this and that, we can nurture it. And then when things open up and we're all double vaccinated and things like that, that connection will not be like a lost. There'll be a continuum, and that's how I see it, right? I mean, but with respect to TiE, I can even add that I'm pretty sure, I'm not sure how it worked for the Asia Society, but in our case, economically it went well, right? So we didn't have to have office space, we didn't spend a lot of money in-person events by paying for the conference halls, paying for the food and things like that. So our finances got better as long as we could maintain the continuum. So that's what I see with respect to pandemic. And I think as an individual mentor in my job as a charter member, as Naeem pointed out, right? Or I call it the chief volunteer, I've been able to interact with people from around the world. They call me and say, can I get an hour's worth of your time? And all of that stuff is possible, in this, we have all the time. You're not on the road, suddenly your number of hours you have in the day increased, and therefore the overall community benefited, yeah.
Just to add to what you said, we can complain about all the bad things which pandemic created, and there's a list of them. But what I'm just going to put numbers to what AGK said, there are a lot of positive things happen. So this is the entrepreneurial mindset that Reena talked about, because instead of complaining, we thought, how could we take advantage of it? So normally the TiECon, the annual conference in May, we used to attract 5,000 to 6,000 registrations. Because of this thing, we were able to think differently, and we got 31,000 people registered. And any one day given, about 13 to 14,000 were dialed in. This is huge. So the reach became global. Not only just speakers, but the attendees, and people are able to pick and choose. We change the format. When I'm teaching in the classroom, the same thing. I can complain about not being in person. Yes, true. But in Zoom, I can have all 60 students contribute, participate, take a poll. They can type in, because I'm not going to call on 60 students, what do you think? But on 60 can type in something in the chat. So I can pick up the interesting ones. New way of connecting, not possible before. So this is what it is. Point is, pandemic, COVID created a problem, but it also created new way of thinking and scaling. So all of you can scale in your classrooms, who you can bring into the classroom, how you can show them things you couldn't show before. Zoom does wonders.
Yeah, so to add to one more point, I would say from youth initiatives, what really caught my attention is the spark in the eyes of the students sitting in St. Louis and Alabama and all, and being taught by professors in Berkeley and Stanford. And it has really brought everybody at the same level. Okay, and including the underprivileged students. They can never imagine doing and going and paying the fees and structure and travel and all those costs. So I think it has brought in the opportunities at the same level. Silicon Valley is a brand. Silicon Valley is somebody who everybody is looking to learn from. And that has opened up that opportunity. And this is the opportunity we are looking into going more and more, and the outreach to the students all over globally. I mean, imagine the students in different countries who always look for studying from Harvard and Stanford and Berkeley and all that, and they're getting that education right there. It's a very, very big positive. It has, I would say it has given a new hope to the students. It has given a new hope to the students in a way they have never imagined. So that's a big positive in our end. And we are doing our level best to bring the quality education to no matter where they are located, what their financial and economic background is, where they are. We are considering all that.
Thank you, Reena. Yeah, I mean, when I reflect back on, on TiECon, obviously, as AGK and Naeem already have said, there was the technology really gave us such global reach, and obviously people don't have to fly to Silicon Valley to participate. On the other hand, there were challenges like networking within TiE and mentoring, where these informal collisions where you run into an entrepreneur that you can really try to get some advice from. That was a lot harder to do, and we use some specific software platforms to help us do that. And maybe briefly, AGK, just to ask you from your perspective on maybe or any of the panelists in terms of advice on how to virtually or even in a hybrid mode, sort of how do you foster the more informal elements such as mentoring or networking at using technology today?
I mean, from a TiE Silicon Valley standpoint, right now, as you pointed out, we did 2 TiECons. The most recent one in May was the second virtual event that we did, right? So when we had to go virtual last year, when entire industry or the entire world is going virtual, right? So we just had to pick some tool, and we picked whatever tool that was available at that time, and we learned the nuances associated with it. And then as the industry around us continued to innovate, this time around we picked a different platform where it facilitated, virtual small breakout sessions and things like that for people to connect. There was also individual one-on-one scheduling that was possible. It took a while for our volunteer community to choose the right software. Of course, this time around, it was a little bit more expensive than the last year, but of course it had more features, right? So end of the day, it's just, there's no, one size fit all, right? Every year, things may change around us. So we need to be keeping our antennas high to see what's out there and continuously evaluate and use things. And that's what we did. And then I think, Reena and Naeem can talk about also, right? With these high school kids, they're a lot more savvy with technology. So they could go to other collaboration tools, right? That they did. I recall, Reena, you were using something sophisticated, and then Naeem did something for the leveraging like even content tools like YouTube's and stuff like that. Yeah, Reena, I don't know if you have that.
Yeah, so obviously to make this work, we need to think about how to make this whole experience more engaging. Like how Naeem said, you cannot teach swimming without getting into the water. So we have to create that virtual water for the students to swim in. And having the tools and technologies like, for example, collaboration tools like Slack or students are on Discord, a lot of those tools has increased, and we used tools like Mentimeter and others who were able to give us a bit more engagement. So I can share one very interesting experience running one cohort. So one day we saw all the students, we asked, every time we asked, like, how are you feeling? That's described in one word. And they came in and said, I'm feeling tired, exhausted. We asked what happened, and they just had ACT. So we canceled that whole session and say, let's come back and have it another day. If we had continued on that session, it wouldn't have been productive, right? So you need to know the level of students, what mindset they are in. Most of the students also enjoyed like the 5-minute breathing in techniques that we did so that they can get into the receiving mind. So a lot of those techniques we created on the fly, looking at the audience, looking at what their learning skills are, how they're adopting, and we changed it in very fast. And every session we took feedback, what you like, what you didn't like, where you feel that we need to improve. So it was a continuous 10 weeks of improvement over and over. And it was the first time we did it virtual, but now we are more geared to run it over and over again, like more and scale it more.
It's just to build on that, the tools, I'm not to dwell on the point, but just 30 seconds. Engagement is the key word. And all of you who are teaching right now know this. So with the Zoom and other tools, you can do that. You can do a breakout room. Okay, guys, let's all discuss how will you react to the situation in 5 minutes, come back and everybody have one speaker share the thoughts. So this is a great way to engage, even asking a question, should we go right or should we go left? Quick quiz. So I usually design 2 or 3 short quizzes, so it engages them. So it's all about engagement. And the point is technology offers the tools to engage, which was very hard to do in the classroom physically, because you have to just make small groups. Everybody has to get up, move the chairs around. It took like 5 minutes. You just don't do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Engagement and communication of how we interact with each other in the group is also a big part. Like when you go into the Zoom breakout room, how the communication is happening, and are they able to understand and how to communicate all those things. So it's a big learning process for them as well.
Well, I know when I sat in on Naeem's class that it was, I think it was a hybrid mode where there were some kids in person, other people in on Zoom like myself, and that opens a whole nother can of worms in terms of how to keep both kids that are sitting there in person and those on Zoom engaged at the same time. But maybe we can move on to another topic here, which I guess thinking about the mission of TiE, the mission of Asia Society, and sort of the connections with Asia, sort of drawing on your experience, because at TiE and within your own backgrounds, interacting with the IITs of the world, et cetera, obviously the U.S. is still, so well known for our higher education universities that are world renowned, but with each of you, what have you seen with respect to Asia or other parts of the world that you can draw on that would be inspirations for us to potentially learn on and improve what we do in terms of educating students and entrepreneurs?
Yeah, Andy, I mean, I can talk from my own recent experience interacting with 2 groups from Asia, right? And for the record, this is not going to be the IITs. I mean, though we have connections, but the one, given the fact that our audience today on this call are teachers, especially K through 12, we all know, teaching is a noble profession. First of all, my sincere, respect, to all of you who are making a big impact, right? So we work, through our investment group that we are part of, the India Impact Investment Partnership. We looked at an organization called CENTA, which is a Center for Teacher Accreditation. So, the teachers also have to continuously improve, right? I mean, so this McKinsey consultant, who, by the way, was an IIT alum and was a IIM alum and also a McKinsey consultant for or a head for the education practice. So she decided to go start this company primarily to give like a credit score for the teachers, right? How everybody gets a credit score, that's for our financial well-being, but your, teaching quotient, however you want to call it. But so she came up with this scoring mechanism, and then many governments, private school systems, they're all coming on board on that system. So what she has done with her, of course, she's an entrepreneur, and with her team, came up with a mechanism to educate teachers, because this is, and you can do it online, right? I mean, very, very fast. So they have a platform for continuous improvement on what's state of the art and how you can do and all that stuff. And also they give some kind of a scoring. So this becomes teachers' mobility, right? From one institution to another, or maybe their own career progression, financially it is rewarding and things like that. So the teaching profession is not ignored, and it is continuously nurtured, right? So that's one thing that they did. And the other thing is the Delhi government. It's not very long. Yesterday I took a call with them. The Delhi government, they have created an entrepreneurship mindset curriculum for K through 12. And since they started, I think they started only a couple of years ago, 2019, they have educated 750,000 students by giving them, it's almost like, giving drips, right? Or like giving sugar every day. So they gave 40 minutes of entrepreneurial mindset curriculum classes. It's a combination. It's a structured and unstructured, interactive, engaging, and all of that stuff. So they tried to give that dose. So by the time they are coming out of high school and they pick the college, they know what entrepreneurship is. It's not like an accident. It's not because my father told me I'm following up his business or something like that. It's really, they were given all the possibilities that an entrepreneur can create, which is creating wealth. I think somebody talked about, or that Naeem said, right? You can go into a village and create a job for all the people in that village by creating a business out of it. So these things, sometimes, teachers can make a significant dent on the students' mindset by catching them early and doing little bit. So TiE can facilitate that, and we can collaborate with Asia Society or the teachers on the call. And these are the two examples I can give. And then once you do it right, then they go into these IITs or Stanfords or MITs of the world, right? I mean, it doesn't matter. Once your foundation is solid, then you can go to higher education. And I think that's what my experience has been on these two recent examples. Yeah.
Thank you, AGK.
And my thought on the education, again, I feel like education has been democratized by now. Anyone can learn anything. We just need to provide the right platform and solution, which what our program does. So as the AGK said, we are happy to collaborate with this educators here on the call or in any school systems to bring in fact, one of the school systems that I'm part of, which is in Pleasanton, California, I have already proposed a TiE solution for how we can collaborate and make entrepreneurial mindset as learning program. And we are talking about how we can bring it. So it's a matter of just bringing just a little different mindset of how you can teach the same subject. That could be as simple as that, or create a different program for bringing clubs and all that, and work with partners like us in the school system. And we are doing some pretty good discussions around it.
Thank you, Reena. And I think as Naeem put, if you need help learning how to swim and getting into the pool, you can reach out to us at TiE to help you figure out how to do that. Yep. So I have one more question, and I know, if for those on the Zoom want to ask questions, please do so in the Q&A. So think about that as we go through this last question, which, is the issue around when you look at the diversity of students that are getting into STEM, it continues to be, imbalanced in terms of from a gender and a ethnic or race perspective, and then certainly that translates into looking at founders, whether it's here in Silicon Valley or really anywhere around the world. The number of women founders who are getting funded is single digits and far too low, and the number of Black and Latinx founders even smaller than that, and saying the same for the venture capital community. So A question for the panel here is, what needs to be done from an education perspective to bring more diversity, to bring more diverse students into STEM, and hopefully, that will translate into, better results in terms of founders who are getting funded that are much more diverse.
So we can all take a shot at this, but when Margaret shows up, you always ask, was she going to say something? Or are you just hanging out here? Okay, you're just hanging out here. Does somebody unmute themselves? Must be something important. So I think the thing about is, question is, why are more boys attracted to STEM than girls? I mean, that really is, we know historically, it's not like there's no evidence that they are not, when they were born, any worse at one subject than another. So it's societal impact. We convince ourselves that, certain gender or certain race is good at one thing versus another. So how do you change those things? You change them in the very early days by telling different stories. It really goes back to what were the books you read between age 3 and age 7. That shapes the rest of how you think about the world. So, and this is not hard to do. We need to write. I mean, I'd like to see if somebody gives a grant to write new storybooks which will learn, which are engaging and new. And I think the digital format allows us to do that.
Yeah.
Because it's easier to publish a book. You're not in the mafia of few publishing companies which control what people should be published. So this is why I'm hopeful, once properly settled, all this social media and different means of self-publishing, which allow us to tell different stories, which will allow us to change the mindset. And but this process is anywhere from 10 to 30 years long.
Yeah.
But the fact we're talking about is a good starting point.
Now, Naeem, you raised a very good point. It's not about the skills, it's about the cultural and it's the societal thing. And frankly speaking, I come from a background and I work very hard in how to increase the diversity for workforce and women and all that. And I'm seeing this as not a problem at all about the mindset or anything about it's so much on the how we are expecting from someone. That expectation setup is so rigid, and that unconscious bias thing that comes out, if we change it early on, and the work that has been done in last 10-15 years is a very strong positive indication that we are going in the right direction. So today and I can tell you 15 years back when I started my company, I started in Salesforce ecosystem. I was like the first women founder in that. And today we have a Salesforce Women Founders Group. Why? Because more and more women are coming in, and when girls are seeing this, they are going to be more motivated, more educated, and the fact that it's possible. So we are bringing all that success stories, as to Naeem's point, and showing them as a role model. And I think it has done a really good job. It's not going to change centuries, years long mindset and things in one generation. It will take another couple of generations. And my firm belief, which I may or may not be the right forum to say this, but we also need to teach men how to be more supportive of how we are. So we are talking about teaching allies, how they can be allies to this whole thing. It's not only the teaching girls, like be a role model, teaching men how to support that and be a support, whether at home, whether at work, is very important. So all those things will bring that change, but it cannot happen. It's not a magic thing. It's not a crystal ball. It is going to take some few years to change that, but it's moving very rapidly, and the change is coming. And I to some point, if men and other genders and others are not ready for it, they will be in a difficult situation in few years. So we need to help them be ready at this point. So we need to do that now.
Great point, Reena. AGK, any final thoughts? And maybe just bringing it back to a TiE perspective. I know there's some programming that TiE is doing to support diversity as well. So maybe you can.
I was going to say, right? I mean, it all starts, by but giving it the right priority, right? In the case of TiE, what we have done is we have, I think more than 50% of our board right now are women. So that's one. We are recruiting a whole bunch of women charter members. We are also, have very specific, we call it series called Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Program, where at every event of the TiE, we are trying to make sure that there is female voices heard, right? I mean, in terms of, sharing their success stories. So, I think even not only now, I think when I was a convener or in 2015, we had this rule at that time, 20% of attendance, 20% of speakers, 20% of, we put a 20% rule for women participation, and we achieved it. And I think we're slowly marching towards this 50%, and then it started now with the board. So the more we do it, it's better. And I think, Reena pointed out, we had, almost 30 or 40%, I don't know the exact number, of all the high school students who participated in that TiE Academy were young girls, right? Basically, It made a very big difference in terms of when you start telling the stories, when person like Reena is stepping up and Vani in our team and Shalini and other volunteers, people are stepping up to deliver, then they see that, hey, there is learning, right? So it's like, to keep harping on this, right? Experiential learning is very, very important. And the experience comes from learning from the experiences of people who have been there, done that, who are also women, right? So that makes a very big difference. And so TiE is all about that. So we're trying to do that, emphasize DEI all the time. And then, of course, if you catch them young and start doing that, we'll have a lasting impact. Yeah.
Thank you, AGK. So there was that question on recruitment. I think you covered off a lot of the answer to that question, but any, Reena or Naeem, any other perspective in terms of recruitment from your perspective on TiE Youth or TiE University, et cetera?
So recruitment for the program for people to join in, or recruitment for what? Sorry, I didn't understand that question.
Yeah, it was written that way, but why don't we define it as recruiting, in terms of participation, diverse participation into the.
So for the youth program, there are recruitment in multiple areas. One is recruitment, of course, people who are coming and participating. But we are also bringing in emphasis on bringing advisors from all genders, ethnicities, because they are bringing in the diversity along with their own experience, and they're coming as role models. We are also looking for recruitment for instructors. So it happens in all the judges. I mean, anyone that you bring in, everybody needs to see and relate to themselves. Like, young students, they need one thing is called relatability, that if they can relate themselves, that if like today, every one who want to be a president, who can relate to Barack Obama, they can see that somebody like him can be a president. That changes the game. So that's why it's important to bring that relatability. So bring in women, more advisors, or even every gender, from demographics, from people not only from Silicon Valley, but also advisors from other geography. We got, because of being virtual, there is no limit. Who can join in? When can they join in? So we are bringing in diversity from every angle, and recruitment happens in every angle, whether it is from, and to what AGK said, we had a very strong ratio of boys versus girls in our cohort. So it was very encouraging, and the kind of solutions and the kind of problems that they are coming are so gender neutral, like they're seeing the same problems from the same end. And I'm very optimistic about the next generation being a lot more savvy about the solution that they are bringing is more economical, climate and sustainable and all those things. It's not like just thinking from there. So it's very encouraging for me. Naeem said that we are paying to give volunteer a time, but the amount of learning that I get from working with these young minds is, you can't get it anywhere. And that's one of the things that I keeps me going. That passion of learning from them is unbelievable.
So let me add one more component to this. I know there are questions in the chat and they're about how to join and what commitment is expected. And what I'm going to talk about connects with those questions.
Perfect.
The thing which we're not talking enough about these days is mentorship.
Yeah.
Because nothing has a bigger impact on the young people if they have the right mentors. The problem with mentorship is this. If I went to a high school and jumped up from behind a bush in front of a couple of girls standing there and say, hey, can I mentor you? This will be highly suspicious. So you need a correct context to be able to give. Where does it exist? It doesn't. So what you need to create is some structured approach when people who have life knowledge and experience and willingness to give, and people who need it and willingness to accept can come together in a safe and legitimate way. Because any other technique, if I tried several techniques, they were all like what the hell is wrong with you? So my point is organizations such as TiE is exactly the platform which creates a safe and positive way to seek mentorship and provide mentorship. There's no shortage of good people in the world who are willing to coach, teach, but they don't know how. Where do they go? Do they stop people at Starbucks? Well, that one gonna go over very well. So I think even in your own program, your educators, think of that. How do you create a mentorship program? How can you bring some people from local communities? And you need to define a program. You can say you're expected to spend 2 hours a month, maybe 2 or 3 sessions, and it's a 1-year commitment. So it's not like forever. It's not like 20 hours a month. So define some parameters so people will be much more likely to come, open, join, and give. And at TiE, we have been doing it for 25 years. We have a handbook, which I was co-wrote, how to do mentorship, how to set it up. And we have formal programs. We can teach, coach, guide if anyone was interested. And I think that, yeah.
That's a great way to end off our conversation here, which is from any of you, maybe with AGK. How can people, educators, students, get involved with TiE? Are there any requirements for them to get involved with us?
I can take that answer.
Thank you, Reena. Go ahead.
So as I mentioned in the beginning, the students can get involved in multiple areas. Obviously, they can come and be the participant, but there's a lot of opportunities to volunteer for TiE. Like TiE, AGK was just telling about TiECon, Youth Track, they can do this. There's internship programs that we are working on for how they can learn something to go put some of the experience, may not be related to entrepreneurship, but something that they want to learn in biotech, for example, or anything, how they can come and learn, be an intern, take those internships. Plus, those volunteer hours are also signed off. And if so, it's an additional incentive for students to come and join those programs. But think about when you're coming to TiE as an ecosystem, it's not only what you're here to learn, but also what you're going to teach and be a mentor to another student, like what Naeem was talking about, the mentorship. So it's a very, it's an ecosystem. Basically, it's an ecosystem. You learn, you give, you share, you collaborate with each other, you learn one skill, you move on to the next one. So it depends on what you want to achieve is what you put into the program, and how you want to do it. We can put you in the right team and you can go from there, depending on what your end goal is in terms of whether it is college app, showing in the college app, or going and showing and creating a actual company. Whatever you want to get out of the program, you should think about what you want to get into the program before coming and joining. And we can obviously give a path for you to reach there. That's how I would like to think about it.
Yeah, and I'd like to add also, right? It's a continuum, right? Don't think that it's it ends, right? There is a continuum there. Middle school, you go to high school, to university, to starting a company, to selling the company, to restarting another company. So it's a journey, and then we just want to TiE want to facilitate as an organization such journey. And some people may get in the train and get off, at different platforms, but that's okay, or different stations, however you want to call it. So our take on it is that we are there to support you. I mean, teaching is a noble profession one more time, and hats off to all of you for doing that. And if there is any part TiE can do to make your students' life better or make it viable from an entrepreneurship standpoint, we are there to support you. So thanks again.
I know that we have 30 seconds left, a 10-second commercial here. That, TiE is not just about entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Because all of us are also fathers, professors, workers. So when you want to know which kind of internship will benefit my child or benefit a student, what kind of a career choices should I be considering? We have things to say. And this is all part of the mentorship, the ecosystem. When there's a free help, and you don't have to take our advice, but we give it for free. So TiE and Andy, back to you.
Thank you, Naeem. And that's a great way to end the session. I think there's encouragement from all of us to come check out TiE and get involved. We look forward to seeing you hopefully soon. I want to thank Reena, AGK, Naeem for your great insights today. And again, thanks to Margaret and Asia Society. Margaret, back over to you.
Thank you, Andy, AGK, Naeem, and Reena. We look forward to partnering much, much more with TiE in the future. And Naeem, we will accept your mentorship at Asia Society. You are all welcome at any time.